Swift. Time to go swifting.
वॉचो ऐप पे देखो एक OTT के दाम पे सारे OTT शान।
England crashed the Caribbean party in St. Lucia and take home the honours in a tussle between two-time former T20 World Cup champions. It's a lot of solid contributions from England's own Barbados boys, with Jofra Archer and Phil Sort playing telling hands. England chased down 181 with 15 balls to spare and 8 wickets in hand in what could be a significant result in this Super 8 group. We look back on England versus West Indies on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPNcricinfo Timeout, powered by Dishtv Watcho, where we have the company of Samuel Badree and Andy Flower. Gentlemen, good morning to one of you, good evening to the other. Thank you so much for your company. I'll come to you first, Andy, as you pull this incredible all-nighter for us on Timeout. That was quite an intriguing game, almost a cat and mouse game where brain had as much to do as brawn.
Yeah, it was always going to be a fascinating prospect, I thought. Both countries had won the T20 World Cup twice before, so there were two proper T20 powerhouses going at it, and it was interesting watching that cat and mouse game, particularly when the England spinners were bowling and tightening things up in those middle overs. So I think that was a key period of the game. And a fascinating watch. Then certainly a dominant performance from England.
Badree, I'll come to you. Your initial thoughts on that game and just how where you feel it slipped away from West Indies. You'll particularly look at the back end of that batting innings.
Yeah, I think as Andy so rightly mentioned, this game was really gripping. It was a captivating contest, and you just looked at the different strategies being employed by both captains when they used the spinners, when they wanted to use the fast bowlers, which batter they inserted at different points in time. For me, that last 5 overs for the West Indies, where they only scored 43 runs, was the difference in the game, and getting to 180 on that surface in those conditions with that strong prevailing wind from the eastern side. You needed, in my mind, to get at least 200, 210 to put on a significant challenge. They fell short. At one point, I thought that they were setting themselves up when Rovman Powell and Nicholas Pooran were at the wicket to get that 200-run mark. I felt that Pooran played a sort of circumspect inning and hoping to catch up. In T20 cricket, if you do that and then get dismissed, then you utilize a significant portion of the overs and it puts your side under pressure. So the last 5 overs with the bat, for me, is where it sort of fell apart for the West Indies. Getting 180 on that track was below par, well below par.
Yeah, that has to be where we begin the dissection of this game and the result, Andy. At first, the 15th over felt like it could be a turning point in favour of West Indies, where with Rovman Powell going after Liam Livingstone, who was given the ball by Jos Buttler. But from 137 for 1 in 14.5 to finish with 180, and in particular that first 13-ball stretch where only 6 runs were added and West Indies lost the wickets of Powell, Pooran and Andre Russell.
Yeah, it was a key phase of the game. Firstly, Buttler made the gamble by bowling Livingstone, and it looked like he'd lost that gamble quite badly, and it had shifted the momentum significantly towards the West Indies. It was exactly that strong over of 20 that the West Indies needed. But Jofra Archer came in the 16th over, and that was absolutely pivotal. He beat Pooran outside the off stump a number of times during the over, bowling across him, and it looked like the ball was either conventional swinging or reverse swinging away from the left-hander, and then he got him, and that was an absolutely crucial moment. But I also think that there were moments before that when Johnson Charles and Pooran were batting together, when they were strangely quiet. I thought they were reticent to take on the spin. They knocked it around a bit. They looked suspicious of Adil Rashid and his tricks and mastery, and I thought they were a little reticent to really take the bull by the horns there, and got their side behind where they should have been run rate wise. And I think that pressure build up meant that those wickets fell at a crucial moment, and then West Indies were in trouble. They were light. I agree with Sammy 180 was not enough on that wicket. Excellent pitch, and they needed 200 or 200 plus.
Let's tuck into that phase then, Badree. 72 for no loss in 8 overs. The asterisk, of course, of Brandon King having retired hurt. But then when England introduced spin, the next 5 overs go for 34 runs. You don't see a lot of intent there from Johnson Charles and Nicholas Pooran. Is that perhaps also a very telling phase that has cost West Indies in the end outcome?
Runs were scored, and like I said a little bit earlier, Nicholas Pooran seemed to be setting himself up for the last 5, maybe last 4. And there's always the risk that if you do that and you use a lot of deliveries, West Indies had in total 51 dot balls in their 20 overs, which on a pitch like that is quite a lot. It's a good pitch, so if you're not scoring boundaries, at the very least, you should be rotating the strike. So, again, that game of cat and mouse, Jos Buttler held back Adil Rashid a little bit. He didn't introduce him straight after the power play because Nicholas Pooran was at the crease. And then when he did come on to bowl, they were quite watchful, knowing that he poses a significant threat. The last time these two teams met in the T20 World Cup in 2021, England bowled the West Indies out for 55. Adil Rashid picked up 4 wickets for 2 runs. So they understood the threat that he poses to this West Indian batting lineup. And you're quite right. I don't think that they necessarily played with the sort of intent that they needed to. They didn't put them under pressure during that middle phase, again, with the hope that in the back end, where the West Indies has been quite dominant in the last 12 or 24 months, they've been one of the highest scoring teams in the last 5 overs. But if you put all your eggs in one basket and it doesn't pan out, then it is hardly unlikely that you're going to win. And I think that was the mistake. They sort of waited too deep to get the runs, and in the end, they didn't get what they wanted and fell short.
Yeah, those 51 dot balls that Samuel Badree points out are the highest for any team total of 180 plus in the history of men's T20 World Cups. That has been a recurring feature, Andy, when we've looked at earlier games from West Indies, even their chase against Papua New Guinea to start the tournament. I think this is the 3rd different innings where West Indies have had 50 plus dot balls. That becomes a huge area of concern for them.
Yeah, that is a really interesting stat, and perhaps not, even though it's extreme, perhaps not entirely surprising. With my experience at the Caribbean Premier League, one thing that was noticeable on some of the small grounds in the West Indies was that their modus operandi, I know it's a generalization, but a lot of their batsmen are incredibly powerful, and they use that power to great effect. They're brilliant boundary and 6 hitters. But in between that, is there enough skill and touch in using a lot of balls in between those big hits? And I think that's been a recurring theme for West Indies domestic T20 cricket. And it seems like, from the stats you've just said, it's transferred a little onto the international stage as well.
Right. I want to close the lid on that innings, but not before getting one skilled leggy at T20 World Cups to talk about another. Badree, when you look at Adil Rashid, and he does this so consistently, 1 for 21 here against a lineup which is feared by most, and not just first keeping Pooran quiet in the middle overs, and then that 1 over that had been saved up, came in, bowled the 17, didn't give the runs, and got the wicket of Andre Russell.
He's such a skillful bowler. We've seen him do this for such a long time in his career, and he's not one of those wrist spinners who we've seen recently who sorts of fires the ball in. He is still prepared to give it a lot of flight and a lot of turn. And once he gets a couple deliveries to turn, it puts a lot of doubts in the batter's mind. And that's what he does quite early in his spell. In his first over, he tries to give it a rip and tries to get that big leg spinner so that the batters are a little bit uncertain as to how to go about playing him. Just a couple times, I felt in that spell, he got a little bit greedy, searching for a wicket more than anything else. And he gave it a lot of flight and pitched it a little bit too full, and he was hit for 6. But other than that, because of the reputation that he has, it works in his favor, and tremendous skill. He's highly rated. He's in the top 3 in the world in terms of T20 cricket. And someone like him, who is a genuine wicket taker, you need that person in your squad. There's little surprise the fact that England and their white ball revolution has coincided with the performances of Adil Rashid. He's been a pivotal part of this team for a long time, and it has brought about England a lot of success. And you just feel that if they are to go all the way yet again in this tournament, Adil Rashid is going to play an integral role.
Yeah, Adil Rashid was one part of the English bowling effort which kept West Indies down. The other was the man who has been part of the white ball revolution once, as far as the successes go, but Jofra Archer. Andy, you touched upon the importance of that 16th over to Nicholas Pooran. He also bowled the final over of the innings where I think only 9 runs went off the bat. Jofra Archer showing signs of surely being back to close to his best.
Yeah, he's getting there. I don't think he's there yet, which is quite a signal to the opposition coming up. But I think his addition to the England side is a significant confidence boost in that dressing room. I think everyone in that dressing room rates him so highly, and around the world he's highly respected. Sammy there has just referenced Adil Rashid's reputation. And actually the reputation within dressing rooms and around the international circuit, once you get that respect, it does actually have an effect on how people play you. They're a little more wary, they are a little more respectful, they know what you can do, and so they don't take this sort of some of the attacking mindset into those confrontations that they might against a complete newbie. So he's been excellent tonight, absolutely, and I think he's getting better. I don't think he's hit his straps completely, but I think he's getting close to it.
All right, Andy, focusing on the run chase now, 180. The bowlers did the job in keeping West Indies to what you'd consider slightly below par for St. Lucia. The batters still had a job to do. Phil Salt's played quite an interesting innings here, 87 of 47, but it's actually split in a few intriguing parts. 35 of 20 in the power play, a bit of a slowdown after that, and then just went into assault mode at the end.
Yes, he did go into assault mode. Well put. Yes, he was superb. I think that sort of changing of gears in an innings, particularly in that chase, is exactly what the coach and captain are wanting from their premier batsman, and he is fast becoming a premier batsman in T20 cricket. So a fast start against the new ball. And he did that. He did that in the IPL recently for KKR outstandingly well, and he's taken that form into this tournament. A little slowdown as he lost Butler and Moeen Ali, and then he just finished it off with complete aplomb. You know, Shepherd also bowling, I think, the 16th over as Jofra did in the innings before, but there was a completely different result. And Salt saw his opportunity and he absolutely grabbed it. So he's a very accomplished player now, very, very dangerous, incredibly powerful, and I think he had a little weakness against left arm spin when he first started on the T20 circuit, but he looks like he sorted that out, and he's a huge asset for England now, and he's done the job today.
Given that slowdown for Salt and just how Roston Chase appeared to have put the brakes on the chase, Johnny Bairstow's knock, which anyway looks good, 48 not out of 26, becomes all that more important because that's when West Indies were trying to claw their way back in, but Bairstow came and just grabbed the game by the scruff of its neck. He
did. Chase bowled well. He did the job. He used the long side well, and got the crucial wicket of Butler. He outthought him, fired in that faster one, and when Bairstow arrived at the crease, I thought one of the things he did straight away was show real attacking intent, and he rates himself as a good hitter of off spin, and even though he didn't get hold of Roston, he made his presence felt with the attacking intent that he showed, and that puts bowlers on the back foot. And it also told his partner, Salt, that this guy might take a little bit of pressure, scoreboard pressure off me. And I think that sort of dovetailing of batsmen when they're building a partnership together is really important. So great innings from Johnny. You know, people keep writing him off, and then he keeps coming back. It was great to see him play that sort of role in a very important match.
Badree, when you look at the way West Indies went about that defence, it was always going to be difficult. But what could have been done differently? Did you feel they lacked that specialist skill of Obed McCoy?
Yes, I absolutely felt so. When they selected the playing 11, I wasn't surprised of the reintroduction of Ruston Chase to give them that extra bowling option. But certainly the exclusion of Obed McCoy, we saw what he did a few nights ago, picking up those 3 wickets for 14 runs. And I felt that they needed another wicket-taking option through the middle overs, and certainly someone who can bowl at the back end on conditions that are very good for batting. So I know it's easier said than done now in hindsight, in retrospect, but it was something that I was calling from even before the start of the game, the inclusion of Ruston Chase and Obed McCoy. Akil Hussain, he didn't pick up a wicket in the power play, something that he's done throughout this tournament. And if he doesn't pick up a wicket in the power play, we see how challenging it is for this West Indian bowling lineup to restrict quality batters on a good pitch. So it's an issue that they've had for a long time. They are a very expensive bowling unit at the back end of the innings. Today it showed again. Romario Shepherd, we saw him in the IPL being taken apart, and tonight the most expensive over in the history of T20 World Cups by a West Indian bowler. He was taken for 30 runs. So they need to address that. What is their best bowling combination? In my respectful view, it is the inclusion of Obed McCoy ahead of Romario Shepherd.
Yeah, Andy, I'll get you to weigh in on this one as well, because it's of interest even as I look through the questions coming in from our viewers. From a handle called Introspect, well named, is the West Indian lineup tilted too much towards all-rounders? Does the seam bowling lack a proper new ball and death bowling option? Is McCoy a great miss?
Well, it is a serious discussion point for us, but more seriously for Darren Sammy and his selectors. I must say it seemed to lack a real attacking intent, the West Indian bowling attack. I thought they looked like they were trying to restrict the England batsmen and not get them out. That's what it looked like to me. And that's a dangerous place to be, because if you aren't taking wickets, you just can't keep these guys like salt quiet if you don't get them out. They are too powerful. They're bristling with attacking intent, and you cannot restrict them. The only way to do that is to take wickets. So I think they do have to have a think about that. Romario has generally been expensive as an out-and-out bowler. He's got outstanding qualities as an all-rounder, definitely. But we tend to see in tournament play that you need outstanding bowling attacks that are wicket-taking threats and wicket-taking in reality as well. And that didn't look attacking enough today from a West Indian perspective.
Devang Sharma pointing out they didn't try slower bouncers as much. Badree, is that something you agree with? Is that a tactic West Indies could have gone to a bit more, especially keeping in mind the wind and the sides, which are always a point of contention in St. Lucia?
Yeah, very good point. I don't think that we saw too many variations, too many slow balls being used by the West Indies, or enough. They did try a few, but they didn't try it enough in my mind, especially on a good pitch. If the pitch is true for batting, which we've seen here in St. Lucia, you need to have those variations. So we didn't see the slow ball bouncers. We rarely see them going towards those Yorker deliveries as well. And as Andy so rightly pointed out, it seemed to be more a defensive type of bowling plan as opposed to an attacking one where you need to get wickets. If you don't get wickets on a good surface, a chase of 180, as we saw, was always going to be a cake home. So in the absence of wicket-taking bowlers, I didn't think that they tried enough variations on that surface, and hence they were punished.
All right, I can see a few more questions coming in. Some of the themes have been covered, so you guys can catch that on our app. And I think in the interest of just the kind of hours we're looking at. I'm going to call it time on the audience questions. Remember, Andy Flower has pulled off pretty much an all-day, all-night shift for us. He was here covering the first game of the Super 8s, and back he is, and he's on the UK clock, so I'm going to be kinder on him and begin our rapid-fire review of England's win over West Indies. Andy, first question to you, 20 seconds to you. Was the 16th over from Jofra Archer to Nicholas Pooran the turning point of this game?
There were two turning points for me. One of them was that over. I can't see the 20-second clock, so I'm going to have to guess here. That was one. And the other was that period of play when John O'Charles and Pooran were together and they were a little bit quiet against the England spinners, Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid.
Yeah, I trust that both of you gentlemen have a good idea of timing, given all your time playing the sport. So I will trust the fact that you will manage it in the 20-second time frame, even without the clock. Coming to you, Samuel. 51 dots. Is dotting up the biggest area of concern for the West Indies?
Yeah, it's been something that we've been talking about long before Andy mentioned in domestic T20 cricket. It's been something that we've been talking about in one-day international cricket since the turn of the century. Too many dot balls, and then our inability to rotate the strike against spinners. So it's definitely something that Darren Sammy and his men need to redress as they go deeper into this tournament. They can't just rely on sixes and fours. Rotation of the strike, scoring of more deliveries is very important, especially as they get tougher oppositions.
Andy, is Adil Rashid among the more underrated bowlers going around in T20 cricket?
I don't think he's underrated. I think people rate him very highly. Certainly on the international circuit they do. I know he doesn't sometimes get the franchise gigs that he might deserve, but that's because there are, for instance, in the IPL, a lot of outstanding Indian spinners. But I think he's highly rated, highly respected, and we had Sami Badree there rating him highly in his summary earlier, and quite rightly, he's one of the best in the world.
Badree, coming back to you, did West Indies miss the specialist skills of Obed McCoy in defending that total?
Yes, they did. We saw Obed McCoy pick up 3 for 14 against Afghanistan on the same pitch, mind you, that this game was played tonight. He is a wicket-taking threat. He has been the leading wicket-taker for the West Indies in T20s this year. Had a remarkable series against Nepal in the lead-in to this World Cup. So I thought his left-handedness, his variations, his wicket-taking threat was sorely missed, particularly on a very good pitch, a pitch that is made for batting. You need specialist bowling.
Back to you, Andy. What stood out the most in Phil Salt's knock?
We talked about it earlier, actually. I think what stood out is the way his shot selection, his decision making, and in amongst that was how he went up and down the gears. And that's the mark of someone who's building an innings. They aren't just having a whack. They aren't just trying their luck. They've got a method. They've got a game plan. They're reading the flow of the game. And I thought his decision making and the flow of his innings was world class.
Final question to you, Badree. Do West Indies need to change something to push for a semi-final spot?
Yes, I do. I do think they need to change their combination. We've spoken about the reliance on all-rounders, too many of them in the playing 11. So, again, in my view, they need to get a specialist bowler in Obed McCoy or even Shamar Joseph as they come against the USA next, a team that may not necessarily have faced high-quality fast bowling in the past. So, tinkering with the best combination, which in my mind is the inclusion of a specialist fast bowler.
All right, that does it. That is a wrap then on the rapid fire look back and a complete look back on this game with England beating West Indies in what could be such a significant result in the Super 8s. England will stay put in St. Lucia where they take on South Africa in less than 48 hours, while West Indies now move to Barbados where they will take on the United States before taking on South Africa in Antigua. So those will be the last couple of games which effectively become must-win encounters for the West Indies if they are to go through to the semi-final. Thank you so much, Samuel Badree, and Andy Flower for your time. Andy, can't make enough mention of this extra long shift you've pulled out for us. You are the player of the first day of the Super 8s for us. There's no doubt about that. Get yourself a good day's sleep, and we'll look to see you soon. And Badree, look forward to your company very soon on ESPNcricinfo Timeout. Thank you again to both you gentlemen. And that just about does it for us. Download the ESPNcricinfo mobile app if you haven't already. It'll have you covered with the thoughts from both the captains. Robin Powell talking about how he does agree that West Indies left 15 to 20 runs over there. And the app will also have you covered with the build-up to the next set of games. We are already morning time in India. This evening, India begin their Super 8 campaign against Afghanistan. The preview to that, all the content, you'll find it on the mobile app. And we'll be back here to set up that game just around toss time. So be sure to join us then on Maruti Suzuki Arena. Presents ESPNcricinfo Timeout, powered by Dishtv. Watch out.
Introducing the epic new Swift. Time to go swifting.
वॉचो ऐप पे देखो एक OTT के दाम पे सारे OTT शान से।
Watch